This is the agentic executive, and today we're going after something that quietly taxes every decision you make: micro-friction. Not the big, dramatic failures, the tiny, repeatable annoyances that bleed your leverage all day long.
Think about yesterday. You probably didn't have a massive crisis, but you did have those moments where you waited for an approval, hunted for the right version of a doc, or clicked through 3 dashboards to answer a simple question. That's the drag we're targeting.
High-agency operators rarely get blocked by a single big obstacle. They get slowed by 100 grains of sand in the gears. Individually trivial, collectively expensive. Today's briefing is about running what I call an executive friction audit to find the 5% of your work creating outsized drag.
And the good news is, this doesn't require a reorg, a new platform, or a 6-week consulting project. It's a lightweight, 1-week lens you can reuse over and over to make your operating environment feel smoother every month.
We'll walk through 3 moves: notice, name, narrow. Then we'll layer in where AI actually reduces steps instead of adding them, plus a few failure modes to avoid so you don't turn this into yet another system that slows you down.
Let's start with the core idea. What is an executive friction audit in practice? Not in theory, not in buzzwords. What does it look like in your week?
Here's the definition. An executive friction audit is a 1-week, deliberately constrained review of your own workflow with one goal: surface recurring micro-frictions that tax your time, attention, and judgment. You're not documenting everything. You're looking for patterns in where you get stuck, wait, or redo.
Picture it like this. Instead of asking, why is everything so slow, you ask, where did I lose motion today? That shift from vague frustration to specific observation is where the leverage comes from. The system reveals the truth when you observe it in real time.
And this matters because your leverage lives in your cleanest hour of thinking. If that hour is peppered with minor delays, fragmented information, and shallow context switches, you're operating at half capacity even on your best days. Clarity is leverage, and friction is what erodes it.
So the audit is not about blame or performance review. It's not, why did this person slow me down? It's, what about this workflow, this tool, or this expectation creates recurring drag? You're examining the system, not the people.
With that frame in place, let's move to the first move: notice. This is where most people either overcomplicate it or skip it entirely and jump straight into solution mode.
Notice is simple. For 1 week, honestly, you can start with 3 days. You keep a low friction tally of every moment you feel a tiny but noticeable slowdown. The rule of thumb, if you have a micro thought of this again or why is this taking so long, it qualifies.
You do not need a new app. Take what's already in your environment, a notes doc, a paper notebook, or even a recurring Slack DM to yourself. Create a simple line you can duplicate. Something like time, context, what you were trying to do, and where the friction hit.
For example, 9:40 a.m., prepping for board update, trying to pull revenue by segment. Friction, took 10 minutes to find the right dashboard, still not sure if the numbers match finance's view. That's one line. It doesn't need to be pretty, it just needs to be real time.
3 categories to watch during notice: where you're waiting, where you're hunting, and where you're reworking. Waiting is approvals, responses, decisions you don't feel empowered to make. Hunting is scattered docs, unclear naming, endless search. Reworking is doing something twice because the first pass didn't meet an invisible expectation.
And keep the bar low. If capturing the friction feels like friction, you'll stop. So don't measure time precisely. You can literally write "felt slow" or 3+ minutes instead of timing it. You're aiming for signal, not scientific precision. Precision drives agency, but the precision you need here is in pattern recognition, not stopwatch measurement.
You run that for 3 to 7 days. At the end, you're not going to have a beautiful data set. You're going to have a messy list of annoyance snapshots. That's fine. That's raw material. Now we move to name.
Name is where you turn random annoyances into structured categories. Because if everything feels like life is hard, you can't fix anything. But if you can say, 80% of my friction this week was search, now you're in business.
We'll use 4 friction types: search, handoff, decision, and setup. Take your messy list and run through each line, tagging it with one primary type. Don't overthink it. First reasonable label wins. Let me define each one quickly. Search friction is any time you're hunting for information. Docs, dashboards, messages, the right Slack channel, the real source of truth. If it felt like a scavenger hunt, it's search.
Handoff friction is when work is crossing boundaries, from you to someone else, between teams, or between tools. Things like, who owns this? Who's the next step? Did they see this? Or a task living in 3 different systems.
Decision friction shows up when the choice isn't clear, the criteria are fuzzy, or you're overthinking because the cost of being wrong feels high and undefined. Classic signs: long back-and-forth threads, meetings that end in "let's revisit," or you bookmarking something to think about later.
And setup friction is everything around getting to a state where you can actually do the work. Tool logins, permissions, templates that don't fit, weird formatting requirements, manual report polls. If you feel like a mechanic assembling the car before you can drive it, that's setup.
Once you've tagged each line, step back and simply count. You're looking for clusters, not one-off anomalies. You might realize, for example, that 12 out of 20 entries are search, 5 are handoff, 3 are decision, and setup barely shows up.
This is the moment where patterns create power. Suddenly it's not, my week is a mess. It's, my week is leaking time every time I need to find trustworthy information. That level of naming makes the problem solvable.
Now, we hit move 3, narrow. This is where discipline matters. The temptation is to fix everything, redesign your stack, or launch an internal task force. Don't. The constraint is the point.
Narrow means you pick one friction cluster and one narrow slice inside it. Then you design a minimum viable fix you can implement in under an hour. If you can't ship something in an hour, you've scoped it too big.
Let's ground this with an example. Say your dominant friction type is search, and most of those entries are about where is the latest version of X document. Your narrow target might be board materials and key metrics for executive updates. Not search across the company, just that slice.
A minimum viable fix there might be a single, clearly named folder or Notion page that you pin and share with your chief of staff or ops partner. It contains links to the live board deck, the core metrics dashboard, and a one-line owner for each. That's it. 10 minutes of setup, big reduction in recurring search friction.
If the dominant friction is handoff, your narrow target might be one specific recurring cross-functional workflow, like marketing requests to design or product requests to data. Minimum viable fix? Agree on one intake path, one simple template, and one owner. You don't need a new tool. You need one consistent path.
Decision friction? Pick one category of decisions that keep stalling, maybe discount approvals or priority calls on incoming projects. Minimum viable fix could be a one-page guardrail, thresholds, examples of yes and no, and when to escalate. You turn unstructured anxiety into a simple decision rule.
Setup friction is similar. Choose one high-frequency setup pain, like spinning up a new client space or creating a weekly report, and build a basic checklist, a template, or a short Loom walkthrough. The fix doesn't win design awards. It lives where you work and cuts setup steps in half.
Now, let's layer in AI. Because done right, it's a powerful friction reducer. Done wrong, it becomes just another layer of friction. The system reveals the truth here, too. If AI adds steps, it's not leverage yet.
AI removes friction well in 3 areas: search, drafting, and routing. For search, an AI assistant that's connected to your docs can answer, "Show me the latest board deck and the current MRR by segment" in one query instead of 10 clicks. That's real step reduction.
For drafting, you can cut rework friction by having AI produce first-pass versions, a summary of a long thread, a first draft of a follow-up email, or an outline for a memo. You're still the editor, but you skip the blank page tax.
Routing is about handoffs. You can use AI to triage inbound requests into buckets: urgent, non-urgent, needs your decision, or can be delegated. Or have it label requests with the right project or client, so they land in the right place without you manually sorting.
Where AI backfires is when it adds an extra portal, an extra login, or a completely separate place where work has to live. If you find yourself copying and pasting into an AI tool and then back out multiple times a day, you haven't reduced friction, you've created a new workflow tax.
So the test for AI in your friction audit is simple. Did it remove steps from the process you already use, or did it force you to invent a new process around it? If it's the latter, that's a red flag.
A good pattern. Embed AI where you already work. Inside your doc system, inside your chat tool, inside your project management. Avoid solutions that require you to remember a new silo exists. Your future self will not remember.
Before we close, I want to call out a few failure modes because they're predictable. First, over-documenting. You are not building a dashboard of your suffering. You're collecting just enough data to see the top friction cluster. 3 days, 1 line per noticeable friction, then stop.
Second, fixing edge cases. It's very tempting to obsess over the one horrible incident that happened once and took 3 hours. Unless your tally shows it repeating, it's not a top candidate. Start with the boring, frequent frictions, not the dramatic outliers.
Third, overbuilding solutions. If your first instinct is, "We need a new platform," pause. You don't start with tools, you start with clarity. One checklist, 1 page of decision rules, 1 consistent intake path beats a shiny tool with no behavioral change.
And finally, turning the audit into bureaucracy. If you try to roll this out as a company-wide program with forms and training before you've run it yourself, you'll kill it. Run it personally first. Maybe share your own friction map with your immediate team. Then scale slowly if it works.
Let's land this with a concrete action you can take today. Run a 3-day mini friction audit. Not a week, just 3 workdays. Capture your micro-frictions in real time. At the end, tag each one as search, handoff, decision, or setup, and count the clusters.
Then pick one cluster and design a minimum viable fix you can implement in under an hour. Ideally, something that either removes a step, creates a single source of truth, or adds a simple AI assist that lives where you already work. Ship it, use it for a week, and pay attention to how your days feel.
Your operating environment should feel a little smoother every month. Not because of big transformations, but because you're systematically removing quiet drag from the system. Make your next move count. Run the audit. Ship one fix. And then repeat the cycle when you feel friction creeping back in.
If this was useful and you want a daily 10-minute lens like this on AI, systems, and decision-making, follow the show and subscribe. It's the simplest way to keep your executive environment sharper than the noise around you.
You've been listening to the Agentic Executive. Stay agentic.